Hello, everyone, and welcome to Focus and Foundations. I'm Tina Kramer. I'm the creator of Simple Learning and the patent pending sound device, and I'm here with my dear friend, Kelley. Kelley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kelly Phipps, and I own a company called Empowering Minds where we work with adults and kids that struggle with disorientation and all the different learning issues or social issues that stem from that.
So, Kelley and I were having a conversation about what we're going to talk about this week, and we're going to move into that area of intention and then also discipline. And Kelley, I know you had a story you wanted to share, so I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Sure. So I am excited to share this one with y'all because I feel like it really resonates with a lot of people. A little over a year ago, I found myself, in essence, I was disabled. I hurt my knee and I couldn't walk on it. And it took me out of my typical work situation because I was working as a teacher and I was commuting. And I found myself in a chair, in a recliner, and with really, I had no real idea of how long I was going to be there because I could not put weight on my leg. And so I had a lot of time to reflect on me and what I liked about me, what I didn't like about me, and how this injury was going to impact my career, my ability to do what I do. And so one of the things that I really enjoyed about my commute was that when I got in the car, I would turn on a podcast, and it happened to be a popular one and one that really was uplifting to me and really built me up. And it was a given I would do it because I had 45 minutes in the car. And so 45 minutes to listen to this podcast and 45 minutes to listen to it on the way home. And I really felt like I was growing because of that. Well, even if I listened to it for even just 30 minutes, that was a strength that I was gaining. Well, I wasn't going to be in the car anymore. So then what? Am I going to lose that? I was really concerned because in the past, I haven't done it. If I'm not in that physical situation, it doesn't
Not
happen.
gonna happen. Yeah.
And so, right, so I was really worried. So I started really being self reflective and thinking, crud, you really lack self discipline. I was really kind of negative on me right then. I was like, you know what in the world? That is your hardest um, aspect to deal with, the self discipline. And so in my line of work and yours, Tina, we work with definitions all the time. What does that word actually mean? So I started really thinking, discipline, what does it mean? Why don't I like it? So then I got into the dictionary, and guess what? The very first definition that I came across of discipline was obedience through punishment. I was like, no wonder I don't want discipline.
Yeah,
I'm
nobody wants to do
sorry.
that.
I don't want to be punished. And I'm saying I'm going to punish myself into obedience. And, obviously there's lots of definitions for discipline, but that was the first one I came across. And it really hit me. I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Mm-mm,
So,
mm-mm.
because I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be told what to do, I thought, well, I have the power to change that. So I started thinking about it. And I did. I'm like, okay, all right, I like order. I need order. And I crave order. And I know that when I am not functioning in an aspect that is providing me with order, I have a problem. And, in essence, the opposite of order is disorder. So I'm
Yeah.
in disorder. So wouldn't it make sense that if I'm not being intentional and making actions towards order, if I'm not doing that, I'm lacking something? Well, so let's flip it over. If I am, if I am intentional and I am taking intentional action towards order, am I not bringing about the behavior or the effect or the result that I'm looking for? Will that not change that? So the more I started thinking about it, I was like, hey, I can accept that one. I can accept that definition. So I'm going to change my definition of discipline. So I did. And I started saying discipline is an intentional, so intentional meaning purposeful action that leads to order. Okay, in the direction of order. Now, am I going to be automatically there? No, it's an action, it's a growth pattern, but it's leading me toward order. And if I can stay on that path towards order, then I am showing self discipline. And that's a good thing. And I should want it. So, anyway, I flipped my world over. And I'm not kidding. Things started changing really fast. And I look at myself now, a year and a half later, business wise, family wise, so many different areas of my life that have changed because I chose to do that. That's my story in essence about discipline and the necessity of it, and the fact that we can change what we need to so that we can put ourselves in a position of actually taking action and following through with things in an area that we don't naturally fall there.
So we tend to be starters. When we have a learning difference, we have brilliant ideas, we're above average intelligence, and we get all kinds of things started, but we start and start and start and start and start, and then all of our starts start to just look like chaos. I know for myself as a child, the thing that I so often would hear was, well, you did really well. Think what you could have done had you tried. I heard that a lot as a kid. I also would hear, well, if you would just apply yourself, you're so capable. And then I would hear, well, if you really want to do it, you don't have any problems with it. And when you hear these things your whole entire life and you're being compared to our neurotypical counterparts, the comments make sense. However, we have to remember when you have a learning difference, we are different. And I'm like you. It was a progress. It was becoming an adult and starting to do this work and started to really look at, okay, how does my mind work? How do I work? I had a dear teacher that commented. So for me in school, math was really challenging for me. I always had a tutor with math. And one of my math teachers came back to me when I was in college and he said, you are one of the hardest working students I have ever had in my entire life. Well, that was not what I was used to hearing. That was not the story that was continually playing in my family and with my friends. And that was such a surprise to me to have somebody to say that. Now, this flip, this awareness that you're talking about, I started to look at myself in terms of what I was doing behind the scenes that nobody knew anything about, and how much time I was spending to get the results that my counterparts were getting. Mm-hmm. Now, that had been my life. I had been doing that since I was quite young. So because of that, I had came to the conclusion that I was lazy. I no longer think that anymore. I now realize my learning difference. I now realize how I think. I now realize that I'm a starter. And then the discipline, I love your definition of discipline, that I need to be able to put in place to follow through. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So does some of that ring a bell with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that we are of above average intelligence, things have come easy for us in so many ways. Yeah. And because we're fast thinkers, we don't put two and two together as to how did I actually get to that point, right? It's not magic. It's not magic. There had to have been something that came into my mind and filtered through, and little actions that I took that gave me the result. But we are so seldom willing to give ourselves 100% credit for what it is we've actually accomplished. And part of it's because we're not in the moment. And so we don't see how we actually were the one that did that. Yeah. And in that same way, like you said, giving ourselves the label of I'm lazy because I didn't get it all done. We are so busy taking on so many projects that it would take God to stop the sun for us to get all of those efforts completed
Yeah.
in the chunk of time that we all have. And we all are living on the same planet. We all experience the same amount of time. And yet, for some reason, we're ready to just jump in and take all these other things on that just seriously are not even remotely possible to complete. And yet, because we are self starters and because we do get things accomplished, I know that sounds kind of weird because we're just saying that we don't finish. Well, no, we do. We do finish, right? Um, it might be right in the nick of time because that's something that also goes along with somebody that's ADD. They work best with deadlines, right? So if it's something that takes a long period that we have a lot of time to think about, we do a lot of thinking before we actually start. So a lot of
Absolutely.
efforts going on in here before we actually start. And so, um, but like I said, because of that, people do like to hand us things. And we
Yeah.
oftentimes don't say no. We're like, okay, obviously I can take more. I don't have anything on my plate right now. That's not due for 2 more weeks. Right? How many times have you
Well,
done that? Oh, sure. Sure, I'm free.
yeah, absolutely. So let's break this down a little bit into some key concepts that are missing. So one of the things that you've mentioned is order and disorder.
Mhm.
Looking at if you watch us work, if you watch me work, I'm grabbing, and it's not in a sequence. I'm better than I used to be, but I'll do a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit, a little bit. Okay, so that little bit, those little bits can look very disorderly.
Mhm.
All right, but if it works for me, I know I have this conversation with my clients. They'll be like, "Well, I do this thing." I had a gentleman that he was running his own company, very successful man, and he's like, "I drive everybody around me crazy because I've got this way that I do this thing to get my work done." And I'm like, "Well, does it work for you?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, it works for me." And I'm like, "Okay, that's your order. However, we need to spend some time looking at the definition of order, looking at the different sequences so that you can do your thing. However, we don't want to drive your employees crazy. So we're going to
And you want to
create
be
a
efficient,
connection."
right? You want to be efficient. So yeah. Sorry, keep going.
So we're going to create a connection. We're going to leave you alone. What you're doing works for you, obviously, very successful business. However, we don't want to drive your employees crazy. So I want to explain to you, we're going to take time to look at sequences and look at order, what they're considering in comparison to what you're considering. And then we're going to use both. So oftentimes when clients come to me, Kelley, they're quite gifted individuals. However, they've bought into that old story. And so I am taking that old negative story away and then looking at how they do things.
Mhm.
And so interesting. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm a firm believer if you do what everybody else does, you're going to get what everybody else has.
Mhm.
So these really creative, amazing minds that come up with these great ideas. However, we do want to give you an awareness that tends to be missing or tends to be weak.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot about what you and I are talking about right now.
Exactly.
So let's take the amazing person that you are and recognize how amazing you are. Now let's give you these missing pieces so that you have all of it,
Right.
not that we're taking anything away.
Right. Right. Absolutely. You want to have all of it and you want to perform in such a way that you can go into any environment and you can be seen as an individual who is accomplished.
Yeah.
And so what you were mentioned about taking a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. I've always called that organized chaos in the
Yeah.
sense of what someone else sees is chaos, but in your mind, you have things filed in such a place that you know where they are. Now, that is not always the most efficient when you live in a family household where somebody might pick up and move your pile, right? It also isn't really efficient if you're working in a workplace where multiple people are touching the same things, because again, someone could come in and move what you're doing. But organized chaos works very well when you're just working for yourself, or you're working on a project that is a singular project, so that you're looking at an end product to get out, right? But very interesting. You said there's going to be something about us that shows up as being an area that needs to have work. And when we were thinking about this specific topic, it was interesting to me as I'm have been kind of going through some paperwork that I have gathered through the years and set aside because it didn't seem important at the time. And I read through an older performance review. And there's been a few times that I've worked for other people and times I worked for myself. But this was one that I had worked for someone else. And it was very interesting to me, the different rating scale and the area that I got marked down on. Now you got to remember, right? When you're ADD, you're a perfectionist. So if there's a rating of 1 to 10, in other people's world, anything above a 5 is great. And I'm like, if it's below an 8, we have an issue, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and I received a lower score in the area of organization. And it infuriated me because I was being rated by somebody that doesn't think like I do. And in that aspect, in that person's aspect, my world was chaotic. He couldn't be part of it, right? Couldn't make sense of it. But anyone that works with me, right, would say, "Oh no, no, no! She knows exactly what she's doing and when she needs to do it, and da 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 da." Right? So what it tells me is that there is a piece of me I need to remember. I live in the world.
Mhm.
And it's important that I adjust my behavior in such a way to map out what everyone sees as order, everyone sees as organized, not just what I see. Because I am not an island into of myself. I live in
Yeah.
a group. And it's important because unless I'm willing to always be on my own, which that's a hard place to be, and I don't know that I always want that. I have to be able to pass this on, and the only way we can do that is through common definition, common understanding, and working that direction towards. So I've taken it upon myself that now my next word I'm going to use is organization. What does that actually mean? What does it mean to the world? What does it mean to me? Can I mesh myself? Because I feel like with that idea of the definition of discipline, by me morphing the definition so that I can accept it, I can move towards the world's definition. And as people see the world's definition and I am able to do something with mine, then they come into alignment with each other. Does that make sense?
And yes, absolutely. And to have that harmony and have the choice. The choice is what is so important.
It is.
So oftentimes we're working with students or we're working with clients that are incredibly frustrated because they are assuming the world is doing what they're doing, and the world is assuming that they're doing what the world is doing. And a big part of what we do is raising awareness about the two, the differences between the two, and then you get to choose.
Right.
You get to choose. Okay, when I'm by myself and I'm doing this project on my own, I'm going to work the way I work because it works really well for me. However, I want to have harmony because I do care about others. I want to have harmony with them, so I'm going to adjust ever so slightly or however I need to so that I can create a harmony with the group, with that I'm actually working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. So if to put that into like real world perception or perspective, thinking about I have a big project that to do and my coworkers or my immediate manager needs to have updates on a regular basis. Well, I know that I'm working in my mind on it and I'm not going to actually get started till down the line. Well, this person needs updates. So guess what? I better move my deadline up so that I'm ready to give an update. I can still be doing the way I do it, but I need to be ready to give an update and not say, well, I'm working on it, because that won't work for that person. That person needs to know because ultimately they're in charge or they have some piece to it. It's one of those things where I can change myself enough to make it work for someone else and still be me and get my work done.
Well, and there's even balance in having a learning difference. So it's fair to say there's times I can appear quite scattered to somebody because what's happening in my mind is going so quickly. If I start to talk to you about it, you're getting snippets
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening in my mind. But then I've also been blessed with the ability to be able to hyper focus. So if I go into that hyper focus, which is also known as flow, it's a really great place. I feel good. I think good. I'm not dealing with the anxiety. I'm not dealing with the frustration. My gift gives me the ability to do both. And even in the chaos, there is a gift there because my mind is working very differently. I want to reiterate or say more about you talking about how much time we spend thinking, because we do have this intelligence and we have these minds that work this way. There's so much that we have the ability to work out when we're in that creative place and out there in our imaginations. Of course, as far as I know, we haven't got to the point that we're mind readers, but when we're working with somebody else, they have no idea. And to them, a neurotypical individual, it might be hard for them to fathom the amount of things we're working out in our minds.
Right, right.
So what might look like procrastination? Okay, now let me preface what I'm about ready to say here. Procrastination is a very definite thing for us because we can use that energy and that pressure of procrastinating to give us the oomph to move out of our creative mind and really get things done step by step by step, the way that our neurotypical counterparts might be doing. So I love what you said, because if we acknowledge that we use procrastination intentionally, because we actually do, some people will say that's not true, but we do. What we can do is move that date up or step into that feeling of procrastination much earlier. And then we can create more harmony in getting things done. And in the long run, it's a little easier on us too, because then we're not running around like crazy people at the last minute, causing ourselves too much stress.
Well, and causing the people around us stress.
Yeah.
Because if we're moving ahead and we're moving quickly, they cannot always move at the speed we do. And because they can't read our minds. And because when we're in hyper focus, I don't know if this is the same for you, Tina, as it is for me, but when I'm in hyper focus, I might have difficulty finding the word I want to say.
Yes.
Okay. I have the picture in my mind. I have the difficulty to get the word out that I'm looking for exactly so that I can give them exact directions. And because of that, I end up doing it myself because
Yes.
I can't tell them exactly where to go and they cannot share my picture. And so what I have learned to do is to map it out ahead of time. If I map it out ahead of time, then anyone can enter into my chaos when I need them to. And I have less struggle that way. Honestly, there is nothing worse, at least at my age, of not having the word because it looks like you don't know the word. I'm like,
Right.
hello. Promise.
Now, the other thing that I do, Kelly, and I don't know if you do this, but when I'm in hyper focus, my spelling goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if I'm going to write things down for somebody, I have went from this woman that I like to think can articulate and write pretty well. I'm going to write. They're like, what? This looks like a third grader did it. What are you doing? And then and you end up embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't so much anymore because I advocate and I'll just say, oh, I'm in that hyper focused place. It makes spelling tough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Between that and really, well, for me, honestly, I have to tell you, it's the chaos. It truly is. I think about my desk at any minute time because right now my desk is wide open. People can see it from the outside, and I think, oh, what kind of message am I sending to these families? Right? Oh, please come to me. Let me help you. But in essence, luckily, most everyone I've ever talked to just says, no, you can tell that you're juggling a lot of things all at once. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad you see that because it frustrates me. Um, it also puts me in a place that I also have to recognize that guess what? It's not supposed to be a one man show. It doesn't need to be a one man show. So as we start gaining the skills within ourselves and seeing where our strengths and our weaknesses are and really building up our weaknesses, right? We want to shore up the weakness. We want to maintain the strengths. But then it's okay to ask for help. It's okay.
Absolutely.
You need help, then get someone in to help you do that so that you take that piece off of you. It's okay to do that. And then you have a little more peace as you're working your way through it. We can't all do it all the time.
Well, and so oftentimes I find myself working with engineers or the engineer type mind. So it's so unfair, and they feel like life is so unfair in the work because they're in that creative place and they want to do their due diligence and have time to really explore all the possibilities of that creativity. However, if you're in a business, you also have to be productive. You have to, you got to pay the bills. I worked with a CEO and he said, I'm going to write a book. And the book is Tuesday Means Tuesday. He said, I am so frustrated with all these engineers working for me, and I give them dates and they never get done on time. And it is so frustrating for me so I set everything a week or 2 weeks earlier than when I actually expect I need to have it done. And when we do work with that mind that tends to be that engineer type person, that's one of the things, everything that we've been talking about today, we're giving them that information so they can look at that harmony in the environment that they're in, still honor the creative mode, but then also, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get this done by this time, and then actually get your work in. Now, for our younger folks, same type of thing. However, it turns into homework.
It does turn into homework. And I was thinking about that same thing because the thing is that aspect of we're talking about procrastination, right? What ends up happening for these young people is they put it off and then they become overwhelmed and they don't have the tools necessary to clear their mind so that they can prioritize. And that is where this idea of order um, and being able to actually know really the right sequence to put our efforts to get what we need out. And that ties us right back to the whole executive functioning that we talked about a couple weeks ago. But it all ties together about it's more than intention, right? It's action. And then you need to have directed action in the right areas at the right time to actually get the outcome that you need. And that's something that needs to be taught. And it definitely, for those individuals, when they're younger and they think fast, they need it to be taught explicitly to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so, so important.
You and I came to these conclusions, kind of some of it's from the hard knocks of life, and then what we decided to specialize in. And if we could have had these concepts, these ideas when we were young, and that's a lot of what we do. We're giving these missing things, these missing concepts to the people that we're actually working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, when I have conversations with parents and we're talking about their child, and oftentimes, the whole idea the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, the parent has experienced these things too. And I have to tell them honestly, had I been, I mean, it is a blessing to me that I was born when I was born, because I did not have the I didn't have the pull that technology has right now on our
Yeah.
kids. That was not part of my stress. The stress, I had TV. Yeah, TV was a time sucker, and I spent a lot of time in front of the TV. But I didn't have the internet. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have Snapchat. I didn't have instant access to anyone.
Yeah.
Fred, we had a party line, so you can even just talk to your friends.
We had a party line as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today in this exploration of the idea of discipline and intention and how that plays into the ADD mind, and where we're able to go with that, our strengths and our weaknesses. We hope that you have found some benefit from listening to us today in our discussion. We would really encourage you, please, if you've gotten something from this, like and subscribe, ring the bell. I'm sorry. Anyways, there we go. So we appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. This is going to be coming out a little bit late for Kelley and I. Today is Happy Valentine's Day. We both have got a red on. We hope you have an amazing week, and we look forward to connecting with you next time on Focus and Foundation.